Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where All the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Kat Ward from the Paranormal Heart Podcast. Amazing lady. I love her to death. Really enjoyed this conversation with her. She talks about all of her life experiences she had when she was a kid, experiences she had as an investigator, and experiences with her podcast. Um, so she's experienced a Bigfoot and she's experienced the notorious Hat Man, but he's a little different. He's a lot smaller than the normal, and she has talked to mediums and psychics and stuff about it, and she never felt like an evil presence with the Hat Man that she saw in her room. So it's really interesting. Um but yeah, she has an amazing podcast, does essentially the same thing that this podcast does, talks to people about their paranormal experiences. We both love doing it. So she hails from the great country of Canada. And yeah, she's a lovely person. And I hope you guys check her podcast out as well. But quick shout out to the sponsor, Flavors of the Forest. Raw garlic dust, go get you some. If you don't have some, you're missing out. There's something wrong with you. But you can get yourself some garlic dust, the Bigfoot's breath, which they come in a bunch of different flavors: horseradish, um, ginger, lion's mane. I mean, it's all garlic. It just infused with other stuff. So they have a spicy garlic too. I put this garlic powder on everything. It's so much more potent than anything that you're gonna get at the store. So definitely check them out. Flavorsforest.com. That's where you can get it at. You can also follow them on Instagram at Flavorsforest. So check them out. Um, with that being said, if you are experiencing any kind of mental distress, please do not hesitate to dial 988 here in the US. It is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, but they are equipped to assist you with any mental needs. If you just need somebody to talk to, you can hit them up. You can hit me up. You can get me on the email or my Instagram. You can message me on Facebook, all that stuff. Um, and also, if you want to be on the show, you can also hit me up at the email, which is where the weird ones are at at gmail.com. I apologize for that. But I will say, I'm glad you exist. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening and being a part of the show. I appreciate you being here. You know, um, you don't realize the hole that you are going to leave behind and the trauma that you're transferring to other people, because there are people that love you even though you don't think that they do. So again, if you are experiencing any kind of distress mentally, please dial 988 and save yourself. Okay. With that being said, we're Java in the morning every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central on the YouTube channel. We're live and I also have audio on a regular. So if you prefer listening to your podcast rather than watching them, I did put it on audio. So Weird Java in the Morning is on all the podcatchers as well. Um, Patreon, $5 a month. I am starting to do extra segments like the breakdown. So every week I do talk about the episode, kind of like my thoughts about the episode and stuff. I will be adding hot takes, like maybe taking stuff out of the headlines of the news and what I kind of think about it. And, start a conversation, with the members on the Patreon. So if you're interested in that, cool. If not, totally fine. Not necessary. I don't need your money, but if you're interested in supporting the show, that is a good way to do so. Again, it's only $5 a month. And you do get a free coffee mug. And randomly, I do send t-shirts and stuff out um to the members. So, I mean, once I get your size, your shirt size anyway. I mean, it's not very random if I'm asking you I'm like, "Hey, what's your shirt size?" Then you kind of like know that there's a shirt coming. But um I think that's really all I have to talk about today. I am producing a new podcast as well that will be hosted by my buddy David. But more details on that to come. He's going to talk about, paranormal and stuff like that, and he's probably going to have guests on as well to talk about their experiences or just to talk about their thoughts, you know. So, it's it should be a lot of fun. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Again, Kat Ward is an amazing person, so I hope you check her podcast out and show her some love. Give her a rating and review, pretty please. Also, please, if you like this episode, you like all my other episodes, or it, another way to support this show is to like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I could definitely use some ratings and reviews. Just after I switched my RSS feed, I kind of lost them all. I almost kind of like started over, especially on Apple, mainly Apple. Um, but yeah, and but if your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a review, please consider doing so on the website, which is where the weird ones are, podcast.com. That is also where you can get merch, much like the t-shirt behind me. There's a whole bunch of other designs. You can get coffee, hot sauce, and supplements. I think actually my protein's out of stock right now. But that is where you can get everything. Everything is there. So if you're interested, check it out. If you're interested, please leave me a review. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a beautiful day, beautiful night, whatever time you decide to listen to this shit. And remember, question everything, stay weird. Let's get into this with Mrs. Cat Ward. She's an amazing person. Show her some love.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird, get weird.
Hey, this is Rochelle Stratton, and you are listening to Kevin with Where the Weird Ones Are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. So happy to have you here. I have the pleasure of introducing you to a lovely lady that I have come to adore. I listen to her podcast as much as possible. She's an amazing person, and I love hearing her voice in my ears, as weird as that may sound. But I would like to introduce to you Kat Ward of Panera. Why did I want to say Panera? That doesn't make any sense. Paranormal Heart Podcast. Well, Kat, if you don't mind letting the two people that listen to this podcast know a little bit about yourself and where they can find your podcast.
My name's Kat. I almost said Cat Heart. Oh my god.
Woo, we're both fucking up.
No kidding. Damn. Kat Ward, host of the Paranormal Heart Podcast. I'm a Canadian, originally from the east coast of Canada in a province called New Brunswick, but I've been living in Ontario in the Ottawa Valley for the past few years now, so that's where I'm located now.
Nice. I really enjoy your podcast. You know, it's a lot like mine. And the guests you have on have been fantastic. And I wanted to, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what got you interested in starting the Paranormal Heart Podcast?
Well, I started out as a paranormal investigator here in the Ottawa Valley. I'll tell you a little bit about that first. And so a friend of mine reached out to me on Facebook and said, hey, there's this lady that is looking to start a paranormal team. And I know you're into that, and maybe you'd be interested. So I thought, okay. So we were meeting at the local coffee shop, the Tim Hortons here, and just kind of like having a meet and greet to see what she expects of the team and all that. So my husband's like, because my husband and I, every Friday night, we would watch like shows like Most Haunted, you know. So he's like, you're actually going to go meet these people? What if they're a bunch of wingnuts? And I'm like, well, you know, I'll just say thanks for the coffee. Nice to meet you. Good luck with the team. And I lovingly say that they were a bunch of wingnuts, but I joined them anyways. They were my people.
Right.
So then I started realizing that a lot of our clients, because we not only did businesses, but we also did a lot of private residences, and a lot of the clients had like PTSD because one family member would have these experiences and the other didn't, and they didn't believe them. So then they'd start thinking, well, maybe I'm crazy, and that would stress people out a lot. You know, you can't even trust yourself with all the experiences that they're having, and then after a while they can't talk to their significant other about it because they just don't believe them. And after we finished the investigations, there would be kind of like, you could just see that burden just leaving them, that somebody is believing me. And then this significant other is like, oh my God, I didn't realize, you know. So then I started doing podcast. I was the guest, and then I had friends and family reach out and say, you should start your own podcast. And my reply each time was, hell no. Nope, don't want to do it. So when I mentioned it to my husband, he's like, why don't you do it? And I'm like, that's something that other people do, not me. So then I started thinking about it, and I reached out to a couple of paranormal podcaster friends of mine and said, do you guys think I should be doing this? And they're like, why wouldn't you? And like my husband kept saying, you like to talk, you like people, you like the paranormal. It's a no-brainer. So it took me a good year until I decided, yes, I'm going to do the podcast, until I actually launched my first one, because I was so preoccupied with trying to get the audio perfect, because I'm not tech savvy. I didn't know anything about all this. And thankfully I had a dear friend who helped me out with the tech side. He still kind of does. So, you know, after a year, a friend of mine says, okay, shit or get off the pot. Are you doing this or what? So it's like, don't worry about being perfect. You know, it's like, oh, okay. So I released my first podcast, and I wanted to have a platform where people could either be a guest or listen to the show to know that they're not alone that these things are happening to other people globally. And that's something about the paranormal that really, really intrigues me, because it doesn't matter your culture, your color, your religion, whatever. Everybody's having these experiences around the world and have been ever since, we can go back, looking at writings and things like that, or even just, what's that? The verbal stories. I'm trying to think of the word. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the passing along, because before writing was a thing, the passing of stories and whatnot, like the natives all most of their stories are just from word of mouth, like they
Yes.
pass it along by telling it. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So when you look at all those stories, it's just amazing. So I just wanted to have a safe space where people could discuss it and not feel like they're being judged. So here I am. It's been 7 years already.
Wow, that's a long time. Good for you. Good for you. I like I said, I enjoy your podcast every chance that I get to check it out. There's so many podcasts out there. It's hard to keep up with everybody, but you are definitely one of the people that I like to check up on. So
thank you.
I just want to commend you for doing such an amazing job. In 7 years, that's nothing to that is commendable in itself, Another question that I like to ask other podcasters is what landed you on the name? Like how did you come about coming up with a name? Because first of all, it's a good name. Like I get the concept and stuff, but like, did you have other names in mind? And what was it about Paranormal Heart that made it become that name?
I am horrible trying to choose names. Back in the day, my husband and I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, and everything was fine, but naming a character was horrible for me. So one of the guys that helped me out a lot with my podcast in the beginning, John Mallard from Odd to Newfoundland, I don't know if he still has it. I haven't talked to him in a while. It was a paranormal podcast that he has, and we were chatting, and I'm like, John, I got to get this podcast rolling, but I don't have a name yet. So I'm just like, how about Paranormal Talk? Or, I was just coming up with all this stuff. And he actually came up with, how about Paranormal Heart? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that. He goes, because you're showing the love to other people, to talk about their encounters. It's just, you're showing the love of paranormal. So it's a no-brainer. And I'm just like, you know what? I really like that. So kudos to John Mallard.
That's awesome. I mean, it does make sense. Like that's the vibe that I got from the name. Like that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast. My podcast is to let people know that they're not alone, and for people that struggle with their experiences like mental health and whatnot. Like I also had my struggles and tribulations with mental health, and I talk about it pretty consistently throughout most of the episodes. And I want people to know that you cannot be okay and still be okay. You know what I mean?
Yep. And kudos to you too for talking about that on your podcast, because it's not as much of a stigma now, but it still kind of is. So the more people talk about it, especially their own personal struggles, just like talking about the paranormal experiences, it lets other people know that, like you said, it's okay if you're not okay.
Absolutely. So with all that being said, if you can remember, do you what was your very first paranormal experience?
I do still remember, and it's still ingrained in my mind. I mean, I'm 57, and this happened when I was...
You're 57? Stop it. You do not look like you're over 50. Stop that.
Oh, actually, it's my birthday next month.
Oh, well, happy early birthday. I'm going to make sure that I say something next month. I'll say happy birthday every day next month until it's your actual birthday. What is your actual birthday?
May 3rd, and it's actually National Paranormal Day as well.
Get out of town. That's my daughter's birthday.
No way.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Well, I'm definitely going to remember it now.
That's funny. That's so cool.
That is cool. That is very cool.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I grew up on the east coast of Canada in this little province called New Brunswick, and the little town that I lived in was called Dieppe. It's just, if anybody's familiar with the Maritimes in Canada, it's just outside of Moncton, New Brunswick. So my parents, my mom's from a family of 13. I have no siblings. So it was just my parents and I living on the top floor of this 3-story apartment building, and the building was really, really old. When we moved in, it was heated by electric heat, but when it was first built, I don't know the year, but it was old. There was a coal furnace in the basement. So that's old.
Yeah, that is very old.
And it was an old rickety building. There's only 3 apartments, so each floor is 1 apartment. We lived on the top floor. It was a creepy building. If, like, in the wintertime during storms and everything, you could feel the apartment swaying. It's just like, and then my parents would pack us up and we'd go stay at my grandparents. We had fish tanks too, so the water would be sloshing. And it's like, okay, time to go to Nanette and Pepel's house.
Oh,
my
man.
grandparents. And in the wintertime, if it was too cold, we had to call down to the basement, but not the basement, the first floor, because they're the ones that had access to the heat. So they probably died of heat, and while we were nice and toasty, nice and warm. But it just a bad and old apartment.
Wow.
So my bedroom and my parents' bedroom were at opposite ends of the apartment building. And my dad even now says that I used to have night terrors in that building, and my first encounter was with the Hat Man. But he was 4 feet tall, not the tall one that a lot of people talk about now. He would just walk around my room. He wouldn't pay attention to me, but I had the covers, just below my eyes. It's like, don't breathe, don't move. I don't want him to see me, which he never did. But it was terrifying. Like, what the heck? He had the bolero hat, and he had like the traditional what's that called? It was like a cloak, but no facial features or anything. Couldn't see the hands, and he was darker than the darkness in my room. And I had this big walk-in closet in my bedroom, and I used to always scream, "The man in my closet! The man in my closet!" And my parents would come running to my room. They'd turn the light on, and they'd say, "No, there's nothing here." It's like, but he was here. My father one time took me into the walk-in closet, because he never really believed. He does now. He doesn't really believe in paranormal back then. But he stood me in the closet one day and said, "See, kiddo, there's nothing here at night that's not here during the daytime." Me being me, that kind of backfired on him, because I looked at him and said, "You mean he's here in the daytime too?" And my dad's like, "Oh." So for a long time, I was afraid of my bedroom night and day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And we stayed in that apartment till I was about 13. We moved into a house. And after that, I hadn't seen him since. But the thought has always been, like, he's haunted my memories.
Yeah.
Like, what was he? I would absolutely love to go back and to investigate the apartment building, but they demolished it years ago. So it's not like I can go there, but I still have dreams. Like, I dream that he's there. I dream that either my parents and I are packing up or we're still living there. There's something evil in the building. It's not the Hat Man, but it's something evil in the building. And I've had 2 very talented psychics tell me that he was actually a guardian of mine. And I was like, oh, now I find that out. Would have been nice to know when I was a kid,
Well, I mean, I feel like even like if we have a sense of like I don't know, like not like a fearful state when we were kids. Like, we're still fearful of like guardian angel entities, regardless of whatever because we're seeing something that we don't understand, and usually when it's something that we don't understand, even if it's physically here, it's just like in the real world. I not to say that paranormal isn't the real world, but you know what I mean. Like the things that we can identify and the things that we can explain. It's like when we see something that we don't understand, it's evil, like with religion, and things like that. People that aren't like us, regardless, like, you know, the people have stigmas for, there's stigmas for everything. But so you were in that apartment for 13 years, or what? Did you move in there at like a certain age?
I think we moved in, I was either 5 or 6 or 7. I can't quite remember, but we moved out. I do remember it was 13 years old when we moved out.
That's a long time to experience. First of all, I want to state that I've never heard of a 4-foot tall hat man. So this is my first story that I've heard of a 4-foot tall hat man. So, I mean, the tall hat man has been linked to negative and evil and terrible experiences. So obviously you're a kid, you're scared of this entity, but he never like pays attention to you. He just kind of like walks around. So to me, that does seem like if your psychic friends, or did you say psychic or medium? Yeah.
Psychic medium.
I guess essentially the same thing. For the most part anyway. If they're saying that it's guardian angel, it kind of sounds more like a guardian angel entity to me. And I'm not trying to put validity to it. I'm just working through it in your story in my own head.
Yeah.
To me, like, to be walking around your room, it's almost like checking on things.
Yeah, now that I think back, that's what he was doing. And for many, many years, I never spoke about the Hat Man to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even know that was a thing. And then years later, I was listening to a podcast, and they had this guy on there talking about the Hat Man, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is a thing? But his was the tall one.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was the short one. So I reached out to the show, and they messaged me back and said, you need to watch this video. And of course, I can't find it now. But this guy had reenacted the short hat man that he used to see as a kid. And it was identical to what I saw. And for a split second, I had the childhood terror coming back for a split second, going, this is exactly, actually, I do have the video. This is exactly what I used to see as a child. And like I said, I didn't even know the Hat Man existed and until that episode or that show. And to know that there's a tall version and a short version, I have heard some people talk about the short one, but it's like you said, it's mainly the tall one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still, I can't wrap my mind around even now that it was identical to what I saw. And some psychologists claim that, oh, well, it's because of books or movies that they were watching and you're dreaming about it. Well, at that young age, I didn't even know about horror movies. I didn't watch that, so I can't see how that's relevant.
Right. The fascinating thing to me is that, you know, psychologists and therapists and all of them, they always try to find some way to do their best to explain it, to make you feel like you're ridiculous. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're seeing something that's not there, but what if you are seeing something that is there? Like, so many people have these kinds of experiences. There's got to be something more to it. So you didn't see horror movies or scary movies or any kind of ghost shows or anything like that. So for you to be seeing this is odd. And how do we explain the kids back in the day when movies didn't exist at all to be seeing these things? You know what I mean?
And it's funny because the shadow person that I saw, it looked like an actual person. So it was kind of like, it wasn't just a flat shadow. It looked like an actual person standing in my room. So the 3D, I guess.
Yeah.
It had depth, but really, really black. And like I said, I couldn't see any facial features, and it was just like, why? Why was he there? So, like I said, he's haunted my memories. I say haunted. Maybe that's not really I just thought about him over the years. I've never forgotten, and I still have dreams to this day about living in that apartment.
Yeah. I wonder if it is a guardian, if the reason why you still dream about him, it's the his way of letting you know that he's still there. You know what I mean?
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Thanks, I'm not sleeping tonight. No, just kidding.
I mean,
Yeah, I never really thought of that.
I've seen shadow people my entire life, and the Hat Man entity is a shadow person, and what you're describing is a shadow person, where they're dark. Like, you could be in a pitch black room, you can't see anything, but you can see this one figure moving about, and that's what I've seen my entire life. And it started at a young age, and I started seeing them in this house too. Actually, I didn't see any shadow figures for like a good chunk of time, like a good 10-year span or whatever. And then once I moved in here, is when I started seeing them again. But JJ Rose, I don't know if you know JJ.
Oh, I love JJ.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's a lovely lady. I like her a lot. But she remote viewed my house, and she cleared it. Ever since she's been here, remotely, I haven't had anything going on. But I did make the mistake of opening, I guess, like a spirit box in my house, and I was laying in bed, and and it said, "Don't go downstairs." And I was like, "Why? What's downstairs?" And it says, "He's down there," or whatever, or something like that. And I was like, "Okay." And then my girlfriend's like, "Shut it off."
Actually, JJ is one of the two psychics that told me that it was
a guardian.
A guardian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, she's super sweet. She's super intelligent. And she does, she's friendly enough to be able to work with you on these kinds of things. And I think she's super important to the community. Yeah, wicked nice lady. And she has a lot of interesting experiences herself.
Yep.
But anywho, so you have this short, I guess if it's 4 feet tall, we could technically call it a little person entity, walking about, all the way up until you're 13. What would be, where do we go from there? What was your next experience that you can recall?
Still living in that apartment, my parents and I used to, on weekends, just go for a drive. Sometimes we didn't know where we were going to go. My mom would pack a picnic basket, and we would just go, and we could have barbecue wherever we stopped. But we went to this place in Nova Scotia called
I want to go to Nova Scotia.
Yeah, Fort Louisbourg. It was a French fort, I think, built in the 1800s.
Oh wow!
And we used to go there, and you could have tours and just visit the whole place. And my parents and I went to this one building. I can't remember which building it was, but I do remember it was the end of the day. They were doing renovations, and it was just my parents, myself, and a tour guide in that one building. And they had caution tape, because you couldn't go to certain spots because they were renovating the place.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear noise coming down from the hall, and I'm just looking, and the tour guide says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I hear footsteps down there." She goes, "Oh, it must be the ghost," hoping that it would deter me from going down. Oh no, that I was like 7 or 8. I'm like, "Ghost," and I start walking down, and they're all like, "No, don't go." It's just, yeah. She says, because there's nobody else. All the work crews aren't here. They're gone for the day already. And but I did hear the booted footsteps down the hall. So yeah, apparently things didn't deter me. My dad telling me things are, there's nothing here at night that they are during the daytime, and then trying to tell me that oh, it's ghosts, don't go looking at it. But me being me, it's like, oh, I want to see, because of course as a kid you know of ghosts, because we're watching Casper and Scooby and all that when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah.
I have never heard footsteps before. I've heard creaking. Like, I remember, like, first of all, my dad moved around so much. I was literally talking about this yesterday. My dad moved constantly. So when my parents were together, we were in a different house all the time. But after they were separated, he was still in how he was like, it was like, I feel like it was every 10 months he was in a different house. And
wow.
yeah, I mean, I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but it was pretty constant enough to be close to the truth. And there was a lot of a lot of apartments, a lot of houses and stuff that he had been in were fairly old, and they were very rickety. And I feel like a lot of the stairs would, like, I'd be in my, like, I never had a room at my dad's house once he had got with my stepmother and stuff, so I didn't have a bedroom. I had to share a room with my stepbrother, so technically wasn't my room. I didn't even have a bed, to be honest with you, so now I'm starting to piss myself off. Anyways, I'd be laying there either on the couch in the living room or upstairs in my stepbrother's bed, and it would just be like a creak, and I wonder if those were like footsteps, because I never actually heard actual footsteps. I've only heard like a stair creak, and then I'd be like, what was that? And then it'd be like another couple minutes, or like 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'd hear another creak on the steps, and I'm like, what is that? So I really want to experience footsteps. So have you ever, is this the only time you've ever heard footsteps at a location?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've heard, because my husband's military, so we've lived in a lot of military housing, and some of those, we call them PMQs up here, and there was this one house in particular. He was at work, kids were at school, and I could hear, Mom, and I'm just like, okay.
Oh boy.
Every once in a while, and at first, for a split second, I'm thinking one of the kids needed me, and I'm like, oh, what's that? And then I realized, oh no, I'm the only one here in the house. Okay.
Oh man, there's so many stories of that, and thank whoever I gotta thank that I haven't experienced that at all, because I would probably burn the house down and run away and run very far.
Well, that same PMQ we were living in, there was 2 instances. So the place that I worked at before, we had a resident ghost that we used to call Mary. Mm-hmm. And my daughter came to my work, and she wanted to have a ghost friend, and Mary followed us to the PMQ. I found that out after. So there's one instance, my son and I are in the living room watching TV. My daughter's in the kitchen, and she's going, what? And she peeks around the corner, and we're like, what are you talking about? She says, stop calling my name. Like, what do you want? And my son and I are looking at each other going, we didn't say anything. And then she's like, oh. And then another time, her and I are in the kitchen, but we had a very long kitchen. I was at one end, she was at the other. And she goes, Mom, would you stop it? What do you want? You keep flicking my ponytail. I'm like, honey, my arms aren't that long. Like, what are you talking about? Then I realized, oh. I said, you brought Mary home, didn't you? She goes, yeah. I'm like, nope. So I told Mary she had to go back to my work. She wasn't welcome at my house. And then she didn't hear anything else after that. So, she's friendly, but I don't want them in my house.
Right. It's I think the most fascinating part of the paranormal dimension is that we can tell them to go away, and they will go away.
Yep.
It's really, I don't know what it is. Like, it almost seems like they have to listen. You know what I mean?
Well, I know the the Catholic religion says that humans have dominance over demons and spirits, and they have to listen to us. And I think some other religions say that too. I'm not sure, but we did an investigation once where this mother, and I think she had like 4 or 5 kids. She was a single mom, and it was a really interesting house. I think it was like 4 or 5 stories. No, 1, 2, 4 stories tall. It was a really old house, and the kids were being tormented. There was something in the house, so we went to investigate. Found out that there was another team that had gone in there, and they supposedly had cleared it. When we got there, come to find out that the mother thought it was cool, and we figured that she brought the entities back because she didn't really want them to disappear. I mean, when we got there, her friends were there drinking beer, thinking like we're their personal show, and like, can we assist you? It's like, no. Like, well, can we watch from the windows? And we're like, no. We had to put garbage bags in the window because we're afraid they're going to be peeking through the windows, and that would contaminate our evidence, right?
Yeah.
It's like, good grief. So at the end, I tell this to a lot of parents. I said, okay, at the end of the investigation, I said, you need to tell these entities to leave and not to come back. It's your house. And she goes, okay, leave. And I'm like, no. I said, your babies are being terrorized. You need to use your mom voice. Find that within you. And then she's like, you're not to come. But, the mom voice came out. So, and we always keep in touch with clients afterwards. And this was many years ago, and they never came back.
Good.
But yeah, I told her, like, if you have the intention that, yeah, it's pretty cool, they're going to be gone now, but they're going to come back if you still want them to come back.
Right. I've had I've talked to some people, and I've put them in the direction of some people that I know that can clear them remotely and stuff like that. And it's almost like, so they meet with them and stuff like that, and then they're still having these crazy experiences, and I'm like, and they message me and say, I'm like, well, that's because you're not finishing it, and you're not capping it off. You have to be serious about it if you don't want them there. I was like, and there's one person in particular, obviously I'm not going to out them or anything like that, but I do feel like they continuously are calling the spirits to them. And I mean, I could be incorrect, so, which is another reason why I'm not going to say their name, but I that's how I feel, because I gave them somebody that could clear their house. They did it, and then they're still having these negative experiences, and I'm like, you're not putting the effort in for yourself, and it's almost like you want them to be there, which is not a good thing. I mean, especially the ones that are going to cause you harm, cause your children to stay awake and you not to get any sleep either, Yeah,
definitely. It's really, the way that I explain it, because we always ask the client afterwards, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to cleanse your house? And they'll say yes or no. Sometimes they'll say, well, is it just grandma? It's like, yeah, we think it's just your grandma. Okay, she can stay. Or some people are like, hell no, get rid of them. I don't care if it's grandma, get rid of them. But then we teach them how to cleanse their house as well, because it's kind of like sweeping your floor. You're still going to be bringing dirt in. So you have to sweep it continuously, So it's kind of like that with getting rid of negative energies or whatever. And like I sage my house on a regular basis. Because just because I did it once, you never know. You could be bringing something home from the grocery store even, There could be somebody who's really in a negative mood or whatever, or has an attachment, and then they can just follow you home. So you gotta keep doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Have you ever experienced anything that you could not that like so I always fumble when I try to ask this question. So not that you can have you ever had an experience that you could attribute to being a cryptid? Not necessarily that you know for a fact, but because of the things you experienced, maybe it was said cryptid.
I think so. We have this local urban legend called Buck Hill. It's about an hour away from here. So in the 1800s, there was this logging man and his wife, daughter, and their little dog. And it was wintertime, and there was a bad storm, and the husband goes in. This is what the legend says. The husband goes in and says, okay, everybody stay here. I'm just going to go lock stuff up, whatever, make sure everything's good outside. I'll be back. Well, the door didn't close properly, and the dog ran out, and the little girl went chasing him in the storm. So when he came back, the wife said, she's gone. So every night until for the rest of his life, he searched for her and never found her. So the bottom of the hill, there's a couple of houses, but as you go up the hill, it's just forest on either side, and it's not too far from Algonquin National Park here, where they have had Bigfoot sightings there. And it's so black there that if you have no light source at all, you can't even see your hand in front of your face. It's so dark.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's no lights. Or if it's a full moon, you could. But,
Right.
So we had, we're doing an investigation out there, and we had things being thrown at us, little rocks, and one of the ladies actually cracked her windshield, one of the rocks being thrown at us. And it's like, okay, we're there investigating ghosts. Oh, before I forget, so the rest of the legend is if you park your vehicle angled down and you flash your lights 3 times and say, Daddy, 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 you're supposed to see a green light, which is supposed to be the lantern that the father was using. So a lot of people go up there drinking, looking for ghosts. It's just one of those places.
Yeah.
So we're there investigating. We've been there quite a few times. And so we decided we'll just go up the hill a little bit more. So after we had things being thrown at us, we're not thinking cryptid, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's I'm pretty sure it was fall. So I think it was like September or something. And so in the woods, and anybody who's walked into the woods that time of year know that it's not easy to be quiet. It's just you're walking on tree branches or whatever.
And leaves.
All of a sudden, leaves. And all of a sudden, this loud noise came from the woods. It almost sounded like a big tree fell, but it would have had to be a massive tree. And it was so funny because we all instinctively got into a circle back to back, and we're kind of like looking around, and then we started to laugh because we were afraid, right? I jokingly said, hey, it might be Bigfoot. Let's go take a look. Ha, ha, ha. Then we continued our investigation. And then we started thinking later on, oh, crap, that could have been. It sounded like it. And again, because we're not too far from Algonquin National Park, who knows? This year I plan on going in the daytime. I just want to walk. This is quite a few years ago now. But I want to go back to that spot and just walk in the woods in that area in the daytime just to see what we find. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, crashing in the woods and rock throwing is a very big telltale sign for Bigfoot. I mean, obviously, you know that. That's set. I mean, you were probably being warned, honestly.
Yep, I think so, yeah. But like again, we weren't thinking cryptid, we were thinking more spirits, that was our mindset. So at the time we didn't even think of that.
That's cool. That's a cool experience. I mean, I don't want to get rocks thrown at me, but it still, like, to experience a Bigfoot thing would be something that I would love to experience. I also don't want to experience the scary ones where it almost seems like it's gonna attack too. I don't want any of that either.
Yeah, I'd like to see a Bigfoot from a safe distance and have a nice encounter, because there's some nasty encounters out there too.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of the negative Bigfoot encounters are usually towards a hunter or somebody disturbing the land in some kind of way, a fisherman or something like that. So there's a woman that works at the scale house at my work. So she does all the paperwork when it comes to the weights of the trucks and stuff like that when they come in and out, and all that. And she one day, this was like 2 years ago now, and I've told the story a couple times on the podcast, but it's interesting because like people that you don't normally talk to, especially after I started the podcast, I noticed people will tell me random like paranormal encrypted stories out of nowhere.
Yep.
And I'm just like, that's weird. You don't even know I have a podcast that talks about this stuff, but that's it. Anyways, so one day I was talking to her because she, oh my God, when I get stuck talking to her, sometimes I'm standing there like, all right, lady, stop talking so I can watch. Like, cause I feel rude if I just like, all right, end the conversation. Let's get it. I need to go. But
yeah.
So she's telling me a story about her and her husband. They own land up in northern Maine, and they go camping every year. And it's on a lake, and she goes, we go out, we go fishing every year, and when the sun starts going down, Bigfoot starts throwing rocks at us, telling us to get out of there. And I was like, what? She goes, well, it might not be Bigfoot, but somebody or something throws rocks at us while we're fishing. And I'm like, that's Bigfoot, you fucking weirdo.
Do you know how big the rocks were? Did she ever say?
No, she never said. I didn't question any further. But maybe I'll bring it up to her again at some point. We used to have to go into the scale house, and we don't anymore. So I don't talk to her anymore. I just yell out the window telling her what I have in my truck, and then that's it. But I have been meaning to like bring her flowers or something because she's the only person in that trailer, and I feel bad. She doesn't have anybody to converse with most of the day, so
Probably love that too.
yeah, I think so. But have you had with all your paranormal experiences, have you had like a negative one that you felt possibly might have been life-threatening at all, or
not during our investigations, but so we moved from the Ottawa Valley, then we moved to Alberta, and then we came back to the Ottawa Valley. And when my husband and I were on a house hunting trip. Military gives you like 5 days to buy a house. It's not a lot of time.
No, that's not very much time at all.
Yeah. So we looked at, I don't know, at least 20 houses in 2 days. And I was telling my husband, because he knows that I'm sensitive. So he's like, okay, if there's anything nasty, you're going to tell me. I'm like, absolutely. So I said, it's kind of funny how all the houses that we're looking at all have like a neutral feeling to it, except for the one that we wound up buying. This had a nice, happy feel to it. But there's this one house, and the little town that we live in, there's almost an acre of land for the house that we're looking at. So that's a lot, and it's right by the river.
Ooh, conduit.
Yeah. So the military guy who was moving out because he's posted someplace else, him and the movers are there right now. Like, he hadn't been able to sell his house yet. So the movers are there, and we're doing the house and looking through the house with our realtor. And as soon as we pulled up onto the driveway, something didn't feel right. And so we go upstairs, and when we looked at the pictures, the kids and I were all like, I want that room, because they had like an attic. It's an A-frame, but so you have the stairs, and that was a bedroom, and it's like, this is a really cool bedroom. So we're all like, I want this one. Well, as soon as I got upstairs, my husband looked at me and says, you're picking up on something, aren't you? And I just shook my head, yes. He goes, it's not good, is it? And I shook my head, no. It was, I'd never felt like that, anything like that before or since, thankfully. It was something that was really, really old, like ancient, and all I saw were two giant eyes open up in my mind's eye, and because I woke it up, and it was not happy. So I'm just like, okay. So I looked at my husband and said, just give me a second. So the way that I protect myself is I envision white light from solar plexus area and just shooting out to try and push away the negativity. So I was doing that. So I'm concentrating on keeping my shields up. And we're in the basement, and our realtor didn't know what I was into. Didn't know I had a podcast. Didn't know I was into the paranormal. He must have sensed it too. I don't know, because all of a sudden we're in the basement, and I'm like, okay, that's enough. I can't be here anymore. I need to go outside. I think the realtor was the first one. We're all kind of like just outside. And it's just like, okay, that's kind of weird. I don't, unless it was an urgency in my voice that I don't recall. So every time we drove by, we didn't buy the house.
Good.
But every time I drove by, I think I already, we can swear here, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I already did, but every time we drove by, I'm like, fuck you, whatever you are, fuck you, go back to sleep. Just like, oh man, it was, and then I told the team that I'm with, I said, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a client call us that lives in that house and wants us to investigate it. But when I went back to Alberta and told everybody, and people were like, you're a paranormal investigator and you were afraid? I'm like, okay, first of all, investigators do get afraid. And second, I'm not even there for an investigation. I'm there to buy a house. I wasn't prepared.
Right.
You know, because when you do an investigation, you kind of prepare yourself. So, yeah, don't know what that was, but it was very ancient, and I didn't like it.
That's interesting. I wonder, do you know how long the other guy was there for?
No.
Mm.
I should have asked him, but I just wanted to book it out of there.
I wonder if he brought it there, you know, whatever it was. Or maybe it was had something to do with something that he owned too, because he wasn't officially moved out.
Yeah, it could be. But I do have the feeling that it was something not that, I don't think it was something that he brought. I think it was just there on the land.
Oh, okay.
And for whatever reason, maybe it detected that I was sensitive, and I woke it up and, you know, wondering what's going on, and I wasn't happy. I got the message. I'm like, okay, see you later.
Yeah. I like being scared, but I don't like being scared. I don't know what I want. You know, I always wonder what it is about being like what draws people to horror movies, and obviously like paranormal investigating. Like a lot of paranormal investigators are people that, you know, they had experiences, so they just want to prove it. But at the same time, I think there's a level of excitement to being afraid.
Yeah, psychologists, although we know they're not always right, but they say that for scary movies, the reason why so many people like it is because we're afraid, but we know we're safe.
That makes sense. You know, because, you know, back in the day when we didn't know that we were safe. You know, we were constantly in like fight or flight mode. And I think that's a big thing that we have now, because it's like instinctual, being afraid of the dark. Because there was a lot of things back in the day that we weren't sheltered from that could still get to us in the darkness. So
I have no idea why this popped into my head, but I'm thinking giant spiders. I don't like spiders, but when you're saying, oh, jeez.
Can I tell you something? It's funny that you bring that up, because I had a dream last night about a giant spider.
Oh no.
So my dream was I was driving down the street, and I see this like my headlights, the road kind of curves like that. So I'm straight on my headlights are looking right into the woods before the curve. And as I'm coming towards the curve before I start turning, this big spider comes crawling out of the woods, and it's the size of my car. And I was like, and I just kept I wasn't like actually, like, when I woke up, I wasn't afraid or anything. I was just like, oh, that was weird. But in my dream, like the me that I was in my dream was a little frightened, but knew that I was gonna be okay. And I just go, ah, and I drive around the corner, and then it's like right next to my car, and then it was gone, and then I woke up. And I was like, that was freaking weird. I wonder what that was about.
Maybe I picked up on your subconscious. I don't know.
Maybe because you were like, this is random, but
Well, yeah,
giant
it's
spiders.
I blame you. It's your fault.
It probably is, to be honest with you, especially if you're sensitive, in like if you're psychic sensitive, for sure.
Yeah.
So
I had a guess. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, because I think you were going to tell me you were psychic.
Oh, well, I am. I call myself sensitive.
Uh-huh.
I don't say psychic because it's not something that I've worked on that I could just do it at will. It just happens. Just like now. Or I'll think of somebody and I'm like, hey, I'm picturing a specific color with you, and it's nagging at me, and I'll actually take a screenshot of the shade and send it to them. I'm like, does this mean anything to you? And they're like, absolutely. Or, describe a house or something, and yeah, it does happen.
Oh, wow. When was the first time that you felt like you had that? Do you recall
Ever since
that?
I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, ever since I was a kid. I used to have, my dreams used to come true. It was usually plane crashes, though. But it didn't bother me. Yeah, so back in that apartment again, that I saw the Hat Man, I would wake up and I'd tell my parents about this airplane crash. And there's one in particular, they actually made a movie about it. It hit a bridge and then landed in the water, but I don't remember where it was. I want to say Boston. I really don't know, but they made a movie about this one anyway.
New York, the Sullivan.
I don't know. I just remember it hitting a bridge where there's cars, and then it landed in the water. That's all I remember.
Oh, okay.
But I would wake up and I'd go tell my parents, it's like, hey, I just had a dream, and I'd tell them what it was, and like, oh, it's just a dream, you're okay. And then the next night would be watching the news at 5:00, and all of a sudden they talked about a plane crash that happened that day, and they gave the description, and it was exactly what I was telling my parents, and we'd all look at each other as like,
whoa.
Yeah, but it was always something like a plane crash or a fire, something like that, but it never scared me. I don't know why.
That's interesting. I had a dream one time, and this is not to say that I am psychic either at all, but I had this really weird dream. So I used to do utility tree work, and we would clear, power lines and stuff. And me and my ex-wife, we moved in with her parents. And I wasn't doing that anymore, but I was looking for work and stuff. And I had a dream that I was working for the company that I was working for before we moved to Massachusetts. And and so the dream was we were line trimming. So there was a couple trucks in line trimming. And it was like the end of our quota or whatever, so it was like the last street we had of this particular area, so we all were working together to finish it up real quick. And so there's 5 trucks, and I remember in my dream I came down out of the bucket, so I folded up the bucket, unhooked my harness, got out, and stood on top of the truck and looked back at all the other trucks and watched them for like a good minute of them trimming. And then I came down, and when I woke up I was like, I'm never gonna work for that fucking company again. And then like a year later I'm working for that company again, and we're gang trimming on a freaking corner, which I forgot to mention in my dream. We were on like this little like slow corner, and I came down, I was the truck in front, and I turned and looked at all the trucks behind me. And as I'm standing there, I was like, I fucking had this as a dream. Like, this is crazy. I was like, oh my God, this is wild. So, like,
you probably are.
Yeah, I freaking, oh my God. I wish, one of my best friends growing up, he would tell me that I need I need a dream journal, especially after that. Because we work together too, and he randomly, not randomly, but he started to become more spiritual and conspiratorial and stuff, and nothing is real, and the truth is out there, and it'll set you free and stuff like that. And he started telling me a whole lot of things. And he's like, you should keep a dream journal. He's like, every time, he's like, I feel like there's more to your, he's like, if you can unlock your mind, there's more to you. You're a lot more special. And that's not me specifically, it's just us and like people as in general that he's saying this. And he's like, just keep a dream journal, and when you have that feeling of deja vu, just refer to your journal, and you might, who knows, maybe you dreamt it, and that's why you have that feeling of deja vu. And I was like, that's wild, man. That's wild.
That is wild.
So I like to refer back to that trimming, the tree trimming dream, because I guess I called it, that I would be working there again. So
have you ever had any other dreams like that came true?
No, but I do have another dream that I do remember vividly for some reason. I don't know why it stuck with me this long, but I was playing football. I was in 7th grade. So the dream was I was out on the field playing football with a bunch of my friends, and I went out and I'm running. I was the receiver, and the ball comes and lands in my hands, and as I catch it, I fall to the ground, and then people from the other team come running up, and they all throw a blanket over me, and then they start going, Kevin, Kevin. They're all standing around me in a circle. Kevin, Kevin, wake up, Kevin, Kevin, wake up. And I open my eyes, and my mom's face is right there. She's like, it's time for school. And I was like, what? And so that dream has stuck with me my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I mean, it's probably because it was so like profound, you know what I mean? Because of the people it seemed like they were trying to wake me up, and then I'm actually being woken up. So that's probably why it has stuck with me. But as far as dreams coming true, if they have, I don't remember them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
a few years ago, I had this vivid dream. It was so weird. There was a global hurricane, which like it just devastated the world. And the town that I was in, it looked like a war zone. Like it was amazing. People were starting to come out of their holes, and we're trying to rebuild and everything. There's more to the story, but so for what I reached out to a friend of mine, Brian Bowden. He's also into the paranormal. You know Brian?
Yes, I do.
So I messaged him. I was like, Brian, I just had the weirdest dream, and I told him about it. He goes, yeah, that is weird. And then a little while later, the pandemic happened.
No shit.
So he reached out to me, or I can't remember if it was me to him or him to me, and he's like, okay, the global hurricane, that wind or whatever, he says, I bet that was telling you what was going to be happening. And I'm just like, oh, wow, maybe. But it's just, it was so weird. Like, and it was, because a lot of times I can tell between just a dream and then if it's something that's significant, because it just seems so much more real. And that one definitely felt real. Like I felt like I was actually there. It was all symbolism, obviously.
Right.
But yeah. And when I told my husband about it, he goes, "Were we okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so were some of our friends, and But it just, people were hiding for the longest time, and then we started coming out, and we're starting to rebuild again. And then Brian's like, "Yeah, that kind of sounds like when we're locked up," and then
Yeah. It's the funny thing about that is I hear a lot of people. First of all, that's crazy. I just want to acknowledge that is a wild experience, and then to be going through it like that, and then like having that like thought of coinciding validation. But I like, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of people, as the lockdowns and stuff were happening, people are like, I can't go to the grocery store, I can't do this. And I'm like, or I'm out of work and stuff like that. And I was like, I am still working. What do you do for, why aren't you working? Like nothing ever changed for me. And and I feel like I feel like I was lucky in that sense, because I feel like if I had one of those jobs where I had to lose, that I ended up losing it, and I had to be at home, or if I had to transition to like working on a computer at home, I feel like I wouldn't be here anymore. You know what I mean? Like I feel like things I wouldn't have been able to handle it. And a lot of people weren't. There's even children weren't able to handle it,
Oh, yep.
which is
So sad.
wild. Like I feel like being out in nature, first of all, is so it heals me inside, let alone it, like it helps, it does something to my lungs and my heart that I can't explain, and
Yep.
especially when I'm barefoot out there, it's amazing. And I've noticed this thing, because I never did this with my first two kids, but when my daughter was born last year, all through summer, whenever she was like flipping out, I would just go outside and sit in the grass, and I would put her bare feet or her bare legs on the grass, and she would instantly stop crying.
Nice. She
And
was being grounded.
yeah, and then like we would just sit there for like a good, like, I mean, eventually she'd just be like, it would be like, all right, time, it was like, it's time to get me off this ground. But it was just it's, first of all, it was super cool to bond with her like that. Just her and I laying in the grass, because I would eventually just lay her down next to me, and I would put I would lay down next to her and put my head as close to hers, and we would just sit there and stare at the sky and the clouds and
Aw.
stuff. And and even now, like, I mean, it's not as nice out as summer is right now. It's still a little chilly. But we do get like midday and stuff is pretty nice, and I'll come home and she'll be kind of like not freaking out, but upset. And I'll just literally pick her up, and we walk outside, and as soon as she feels that fresh air, it's like she's just calm instantly.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something for us to being outside and experiencing nature. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they didn't want us in the national parks and blah 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 at the park, and I'm like, you don't have to go to anywhere, just stand outside your house, like, and hang out. Like, you don't, I don't know, it's wild. And then and then you guys had that trucker thing happening, and that blew my mind. I was just like, the government's against all of us. No matter what country we're in, everybody's government is against them, no matter what it is. And the minute they started calling them racist just because they didn't want to get shots, I was like, there was no symbolism. They weren't saying anything. They were just literally, we don't want to get the blah blah blah. And then they were like, oh, well, you're a racist, so we're gonna now shut off your bank accounts. And I was just like, what is going on?
Wild. Yeah.
So if our government did that, which maybe they have, and we just don't know about it, to certain groups of people, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see them doing that. Maybe especially like in the 90s, in the early 2000s, like Bush. I could see Bush doing that. I could see Clinton doing that.
Yep.
But sorry to go towards the conspiracy side of things, but yeah, I think spiritually we all need that sense of freedom, and to feel that free feeling, to feel whole, and to be locked down does definitely being told that you need to stay inside, it does something to you mentally. And that's all. I said a lot just to say that, I guess.
But it was kind of neat too, because during the lockdown in our neighborhood, kids were playing outside, families were going out for walks with their dogs, and they're just like when I was growing up as a kid. So it was almost like a reset button. But if you saw somebody coming towards you on the sidewalk, they crossed like they didn't have any. They
Oh,
weren't close
yeah,
to each
yeah.
other, but people were still going outside. And like I said, it was so heartwarming to actually hear kids playing outside.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. But yeah, it was scary times.
Yeah. I to go on that, what you just said, people when they would cross paths and they were just like, I remember coming out of the gas station and I held the door open for a guy and he goes, "Oh my God, thank you." And I go, "You're welcome." He goes, "I didn't know people did this anymore." And I was like, really?
Oh wow.
And this was during the whole thing,
Yeah.
It was still like we were still technically supposed to be locked down. Actually, my ex-girlfriend got bitched at on Facebook because we went to Home Depot and we got the plants, the little plant balls to put seeds in and stuff for the starter kit. And she posted about it on Facebook, and somebody commented on it because we were doing it. We did it together with our kids. And somebody had commented, "Where did you get those?" And she, replied, "We got it from Home Depot." And she goes, "This isn't a staycation. Those people need to be safe." I was like, "Oh my God."
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, I wouldn't even reply to that. That's ridiculous for somebody to get mad at you for doing something that's good for us,
I was at the grocery store once, and we knew that it was going to be mandatory to wear masks, but it wasn't mandatory yet. So if you wanted to wear one, fine. If not, that was fine too. And I wasn't wearing one. I would keep my distance and I washed my hands a lot, taking the other precautions, but I didn't want to wear the mask. And this woman came up to me and she was so angry that I didn't have a mask, and she's yelling at me, and I'm thinking, because people were so afraid, we didn't know what the hell it was.
Right.
So I just looked at her and I said, I'm not gonna have a fight with anybody. And I said, I wish you much happiness and love in the future. Take care. And I walked away, and she just stood there like, what the hell just happened? She was ready for a fight, but I'm like, nah, I'm not fighting you.
Yeah.
There's so much fear and anger.
Yeah, there was. There were trials and tribulations is what we will face in our life, and that was a big one. I remember here in Maine, the mask mandate was lifted, but my kids and my ex-wife still were in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire was still, especially the cities. The cities were more strict on it than like the more rural areas. And she lives in a city, a big city, actually a pretty important city in New Hampshire. And we started doing stuff together as a family because I was no longer with my ex-girlfriend and stuff. So we were just trying to do stuff together with the kids. And I went shopping with her a couple times, and we ended up going to Walmart. And because, Maine, we don't have to wear masks. So I threw out all of anything that I had that had to do with masking. And we're walking in, and she's putting on her mask, and I was like, "Ew, what are you doing?" And she's like, "You have to wear a mask here." And I was like, "I'm not wearing a mask." And I walked in, and there was literally a security guard. It wasn't a Walmart employee. It was a security guard with a taser and mace and everything, the whole nines. And he was sitting there, and he goes, "Hey," he's like, "Put the mask on." And I was like, and I put it on. Well, I mean, I didn't put it on. I grabbed it, and then I just continued walking. And there was these two ladies that were up a little bit further, and they just stared at me, and they went like that. And I was just like,
What the hell?
I was like, I'm gonna fucking have to put this thing on so people don't fucking yell at me. Like, oh man, I don't want to say that anybody is stupid for wearing them, because they weren't. They thought that it was the best thing for them. I mean, has been evidence now that has come out that said that it wasn't 100%. Even though we believed back then that it was 100% safe, now we know that it's not 100% safe. Even Fauci said that it wasn't. So,
Well, I think because everybody was so afraid that the governments had to, they felt like they had to do something
right.
to maybe make us feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
and that was what they came up with.
Yeah. And yeah. Sorry that we went down this road, everybody. I don't mean to offend anybody by this topic, because what you did during that situation is what you did. I do think that if you're a regular person and you're yelling at somebody in a store for not wearing a mask, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. But also, I understand because you were afraid.
Yep.
But anywho, back to the paranormal. Since you do investigations and whatnot, I was curious what your favorite tool to use for your investigations.
I actually like using an old-fashioned MP3 player. I
Oh,
used to
really?
have one just around my neck. Yeah. There was this one investigation that we did. I was actually manning the camera, then I had the recorder around my neck, and for whatever reason, I looked to my left. I don't know why. So it's like, okay, there was nobody there. So when I went to listen to the audio later on, I'm just sitting at the computer, and my kids are next to me watching TV, and I'm just kind of like this with my eyes closed, just listening, right? And all of a sudden I just went like this. It's just like, and I had to rewind it. And I asked the kids, hey, what do you think you hear here? Or what do you think you hear? And so my real name is Catherine. Everybody calls me Cat. Somebody actually said Catherine. Even the team calls me Cat. Nobody ever calls me Catherine. So the kids are like, yeah, just somebody said your name. I'm like, yeah, but everyone calls me Cat. And that was when I looked at the time stamp and all that, I realized it was the same moment that I turned to my left to look to see who was there. So instinctively, I must have known somebody was there, and then I picked up my name on the voice recording. So to me, I absolutely love that.
That's amazing. I like that a lot. Oh man, to hear you. First of all, when you're on vacation, why not a vacation? An investigation is what I meant to say. But to be on an investigation and hear your name, I have to say, I was on an investigation in the Bridgewater Triangle, specifically Huckamuck Swamp in Massachusetts with Phil Anderson. And we had the spirit box out, and it said, not only did it say Kevin, it also said Penobscot, which is the tribe that I'm from, which is the tribe that I am, that are my ancestors.
Okay.
And then it also said podcast, all within like 5 minutes.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, because he actually, it might not have said my name, but it did say podcast Penobscot. I think it did say my name. Anyways, either way, it was a lot of validating things for myself, and I was like, oh my god. And like hearing your name on a spirit box on Ghost Tube Spirit Talker, or your MP3, like a disembodied voice or whatever. To hear that is a profound experience. Like, it's a spirit or some entity trying to speak to you specifically, and that is the most validating thing to another dimension, to the paranormal realm, to the veil being thin in that moment. That is awesome.
That really grabbed my attention when I heard my full name, and it's just like, okay.
I bet. Oh man. So last question that I have for you tonight is, with your investigations, with your podcast, are you finding fulfillment in your life?
Yes. I haven't done any investigating in a few years, well, since the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
just because my work schedule doesn't seem to coincide with the rest of the teams. But I absolutely love this topic. I love doing the podcast. I love talking to people about their experiences and brainstorming to see what people think is going on, whether it's cryptids or spirits or whatever.
Yeah. That's I like it too, you know. We both have that in common where not only do we like talking about it, we've also had the experiences, so we can relate to the guests that we have on our shows and all that. So yeah, it's amazing, and I really want to thank you again. I know before we started recording, I did ask you last minute for tonight. I was gonna plan for you for May, but with recent circumstances, I'm really happy you were able to do this tonight. And I do want to shout out the fact that you have coffee mugs for your merch, and I want to show everybody that's watching if it doesn't glare too much.
Yeah.
It's got her face on there. We are working on, if you do decide to buy a coffee mug from Kat, you can get a discount code for my coffee, a Weird Java, which I'm totally dropping the ball, but I've been meaning to send Kat some coffee, and there's so many things going on, and I keep forgetting to take care of my friends, so I apologize for that, Kat.
Okay. Life gets in the way.
Life be lifing for realsies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice mug. It's, you know, it feels sturdy. I just drank beer out of it.
I just had bubbly out of mine.
And it's clean. You know, it's not stickery. It's not a sticker. That's definitely it is definitely a part of the cup. So
I have put this in the dishwasher I don't know how many times, and it's still, you know. So if anybody's interested, there's different colors. You've got a red one.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a blue one. It comes in black, lime green, orange. Just reach out to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I should probably mention where, paranormalheart13@gmail.com. That would help.
That would help, absolutely. So one more time, if you don't mind letting the good people know where they can find you, they can find your show and all that.
Well, thank you for having me on. And I'm so happy I was able to help you out at the last minute. Happened to be off this weekend, so it worked out. But I started out my show as once a month, then twice a month. Now I'm doing it every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have a new episode, and you can find me on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM. Oh my God, I can't. 107.1? Oh my God. United Public Radio Network. Oh my God. But I'm also on, I have a YouTube channel, Paranormal Heart Podcast. You can find it on Podbean, Spotify, any place that you find podcasts.
Nice. And like I said, it's a really good podcast. I enjoy it every time I get the chance to check it out. You know, Kat is literally a sweetheart, which coincides with the name of her podcast, Paranormal Heart. She definitely does have a heart for her guests. So with that being said, check her out, leave a rating and review. Also, if you like today's episode and all my other episodes, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. Leave a rating and review. If your podcatcher does not allow you to leave a review, please consider leaving one on the website where the weird ones are, podcast.com. That is also where you can find merch much like this hoodie, my hat, the shirt behind me. I also have other designs like Sasquatches on there and stuff like that. And I do have a sexy ghost for you freaky peoples out there. But that is also where you can get Weird Sauce and Weird Java and my supplements. So check that out if you feel like doing so. Other than that, that is all we have for you tonight. Thank you, Kat, so much again.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Anytime.
Thank you. You are the best. I really enjoy you. I like you a lot, and I hope everybody listening checks you out because I definitely think you deserve it. So
thank you.
Everybody remember, question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.